There is a vegetable in your kitchen right now that has been making people cry for 7,000 years. It has been used as currency, as medicine, as a weapon of war, as a religious offering, and according to ancient records, it was one of the main foods fed to the workers. Who built the Great Pyramids of Giza? Its name is the onion. Almost every cuisine on every continent begins with an onion. Italian sofrito, French mirepoix, Indian masala, Chinese stir-fry, West African stew, Mexican salsa. The onion is not just an ingredient, it is the foundation of how most of the world cooks. And yet, most people know almost nothing about its extraordinary history. Nobody knows exactly where the onion was first cultivated. This is unusual. Most domesticated crops have a clear geographic origin. Rice from China, corn from Mexico, wheat from the Middle East, but the onion has been cultivated in so many places for so long that the trail goes cold somewhere around 5,000 to 7,000 years ago. What archaeologists have found is that onions appear in ancient sites across multiple continents almost simultaneously, in ancient Egypt, in ancient India, in ancient China, in ancient Mesopotamia. It is possible that the onion was domesticated independently in several different places at roughly the same time, because it was simply too useful to leave wild. The onion has several qualities that made it extraordinarily valuable to ancient peoples. First, it stores well. A dried onion can last for months without refrigeration. In a world where food preservation was a matter of life and death, this was enormously important. Second, it grows quickly. An onion can be harvested in as little as 3 months. Third, it grows almost anywhere. Onions are remarkably adaptable. Hot climates, cold climates, sandy soil, clay soil, mountain terraces, river valleys. If you can grow almost anything, you can probably grow an onion. Fourth, and perhaps most importantly, it has a powerful flavor that makes almost everything else more delicious. Ancient peoples discovered quickly that adding onion to plain food made the food dramatically better. But let us go to Egypt, because Egypt has the most spectacular early evidence of the onion's importance. The ancient Egyptians loved the onion with an intensity that modern people might find surprising. They painted it in their tombs. They placed it in their burial chambers. They depicted it in their art, more than almost any other food. Why did the Egyptians revere the onion so deeply? Some historians believe it was the onion's concentric layers that fascinated them. When you cut an onion, you see layer within layer, within layer. The Egyptians associated this with eternity and the cycles of life. The onion became a symbol of the universe itself, of infinity, of the eternal beyond death. Onions were found in the wrappings of mummies, placed by embalmers between the layers of bandages, sometimes placed in the eye sockets of the dead. sometimes positioned against the ears or the chest. Archaeologists believe the Egyptians thought the onion's strong scent could magically prompt the dead to breathe again, that the smell of onion was the smell of life itself. And then there are the pyramids. In 1842, a German archaeologist named Richard Lepsius discovered an inscription on the Great Pyramid of Giza. It recorded the cost of feeding the workers who built the pyramid. The inscription mentioned enormous quantities of radishes, garlic, and onions. The translation suggests about 1,600 talents of silver worth of these vegetables. 1,600 talents of silver is an almost incomprehensible sum. Some historians estimate it could represent the equivalent of millions of modern dollars spent on vegetables. For construction workers, this tells us something important. The pyramid builders were not slaves working for nothing. They were organized workers, fed, housed, and maintained by the Egyptian state, and onions were central to their diet. In ancient India, the onion had an equally long but more complicated history. Ancient Ayurvedic texts described the onion as both medicine and food of extraordinary power. The onion was prescribed for digestive problems, for infections, for heart conditions, for sexual vitality. Ancient Indian physicians understood that the onion had genuine medicinal properties thousands of years before modern science confirmed it. But ancient Indian society also had complicated feelings about onions. The onion was eventually associated with tamasic foods. In Hindu and Jain philosophy, tamasic foods are foods believed to cloud the mind, inflame the passions, and disturb spiritual practice. Onions, along with garlic, were forbidden to Brahmins and Jain monks. A vegetable, considered both medicine and impurity. In ancient Greece and Rome, the onion was the food of athletes and of soldiers. Greek Olympic athletes consumed large quantities of onions before competition. They believed onions balanced the blood and increased endurance. Roman gladiators were rubbed with onion juice before fighting, in the belief that it firmed the muscles and increased strength. Roman soldiers carried onions on military campaigns. For several reasons, onions were light and storable. They could be eaten raw, without cooking, when fires were not possible. They added flavor to the simple, often monotonous, military diet. And Roman physicians believed onions could treat almost every condition a soldier might encounter, from infected wounds to snake bites. In medieval Europe, the onion was one of the three most important vegetables, alongside beans and cabbage. These three vegetables fed the European peasantry for centuries. The medieval peasant diet was simple and often monotonous. Brown bread, pottage, whatever could be grown in a small garden plot. But with onions, even the simplest pottage became edible and sometimes even enjoyable. Onions were also used as payment in medieval Europe. Landlords accepted onions as part of rent payments. A pound of onions could pay a small debt. They were given as gifts at weddings and celebrations. Medieval merchants tracked onion prices the way modern traders track commodity prices. The onion was essentially a form of currency. Medieval doctors had extraordinary faith in the medicinal power of onions. The onion was prescribed for headaches. Hold an onion to the forehead. For dog bites, apply onion paste. For baldness, rub onion juice on the scalp. For insomnia, eat a raw onion before bed. For toothache, place a piece of onion against the painful tooth. Some of these remedies sound absurd, but some of them were actually effective. And here is where it gets interesting, because modern science has actually confirmed that the medieval doctors were not entirely wrong. Onions contain quercetin, a powerful antioxidant, organosulfur compounds with demonstrated antimicrobial properties. These compounds really do inhibit the growth of certain bacteria. Applied to wounds, onion preparations could genuinely help prevent infection. The medieval physicians knew it worked. They just did not know why. When Columbus and the Spanish came to the Americas, they brought onions with them. The onion was one of the first European foods to be successfully grown in the New World. Spanish colonists planted onions in Haiti in 1494, just 2 years after Columbus arrived. Within decades, onions were growing throughout North and South America and the Caribbean. The vegetable traveled with every European expedition. Interestingly, the Americas already had their own native onion species. Wild onions grew across North America and were used by many indigenous peoples. The city of Chicago gets its name from the indigenous word Chicarqua, meaning wild garlic or wild onion. The land where Chicago now stands was known for the wild onions that grew along the riverbanks. The onion also played a role in one of the most dramatic moments in military history. During Napoleon's Russian campaign in 1812, as the Grande Armée retreated from Moscow in catastrophic winter conditions, soldiers who survived later reported that eating onions raw from abandoned Russian fields had helped them survive when all other food was gone. During the American Civil War, Ulysses S. Grant sent an urgent message to the War Department in Washington. He wrote, "I will not move my army without onions." He believed the onion was essential for his soldiers' health. The government took him seriously. Within 3 days, 3 trainloads of onions were dispatched to Grant's army. A general refusing to fight without onions. In World War I, doctors used onion juice to treat infected wounds on the battlefield. Antiseptic medicines were often scarce or unavailable. Doctors who had read about the ancient use of onions as wound treatment applied fresh onion preparations and reported genuine results. Modern scientists have since confirmed that onion compounds do have antimicrobial effects against many common wound bacteria. The onion has also shaped culinary traditions in ways we rarely think about. French onion soup, one of the most beloved dishes in French cuisine, has an almost mythological origin story. According to French legend, Louis XV, returning from hunting, found only onions, butter and champagne in his hunting lodge. He made soup from these three ingredients. Whether true or not, the dish became iconic. The technique of caramelizing onions, cooking them slowly over low heat until their natural sugars turn golden and sweet, is one of the fundamental techniques of French cooking. When onions caramelize, they transform completely. The sharp, pungent, eye-watering, raw onion becomes something entirely different. Sweet, deep, complex, almost meaty in flavor. It is a kind of culinary magic. In India, the onion plays a role in food culture that goes far beyond cooking. The price of onions in India has toppled governments. Literally, when onion prices spike, Indian consumers become furious. Politicians have lost elections, specifically because onion prices went too high. The 1998 Indian general election was partly influenced by an onion price crisis. India is the world's second largest producer of onions. After China, India grows over 20 million tons of onions every year. Maharashtra and Karnataka are the main onion-growing states. When drought or flooding destroys the onion crop, the economic and political consequences are immediate and severe. The onion is India's most sensitive agricultural commodity. The science of why onions make us cry is itself a fascinating story. When you cut an onion, you break its cells. This releases enzymes that react with sulfur compounds stored separately in the onion. The reaction produces a volatile gas called syn-propanethyl S-oxide. This gas rises toward your eyes. It reacts with the moisture on your eyeball to form a mild sulfuric acid. Your eyes water to wash the acid away. People have tried every possible solution to onion-induced crying: cutting onions underwater, wearing goggles, chewing gum while cutting, putting onions in the freezer first, cutting near an open flame, using a very sharp knife, which breaks fewer cells and releases less gas. None of them work perfectly. After 7,000 years of human experience with onions, we still cry every single time. Modern science has given us a comprehensive understanding of why the onion is so good for us. The quercetin in onions is one of the most powerful antioxidants found in vegetables. The sulfur compounds have been shown to reduce blood pressure, lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation. The onion also contains prebiotics that feed beneficial gut bacteria. The medieval doctors were right about almost everything. They just used different words. The onion has also produced some remarkable cultural traditions around the world. In Germany, the Zwiebelmarkt, the onion market, of Weimar has been held every year since 1653. It is one of the oldest, continuously running markets in Europe. Every year, thousands of people gather to buy and celebrate the onion. In Mexico, the onion, alongside chili and tomato, forms the holy trinity of Mexican cooking. These three ingredients, together, are the flavor foundation of Mexican cuisine. Remove any one of them, and Mexican food becomes something different, less itself. The great civilizations of Mesoamerica built their culinary traditions on this foundation long before European contact. The humble onion has also been at the center of significant culinary innovation. The bloomin' onion, invented by an American restaurant chain in 1988, is made from a single onion, cut to look like a flower, and deep-fried. It became one of the most ordered restaurant appetizers in America, a 7,000-year-old vegetable reinvented for modern appetites. The onion's adaptability is part of what makes it eternal. Today, the world produces about 100 million tons of onions every year. China produces more than any other country. India is second, the United States third. Egypt, where the onion fed the pyramid builders, is still one of the major onion-producing nations. The geography of onion production follows the geography of ancient civilization almost perfectly. The onion has entered language in ways we barely notice. To know your onions is an English phrase meaning to be expert at something. An onion is British slang for a person's head. In French, occuper de ses oignons, to mind your onions, means to mind your own business. The vegetable that makes us cry has also made us laugh, across dozens of languages, for thousands of years. From the burial chambers of ancient Egyptian pharaohs to the battlefield wounds of Napoleon's soldiers, from the Olympic athletes of ancient Greece to the Civil War general who refused to march without them, from the monastery gardens of medieval Europe to the price riots of modern India, the onion has been present at almost every turning point in human civilization. And yet, we almost never think about it. We reach for it automatically. We cut it without ceremony. We cry without thinking about why. We cook it and forget it, hidden in sauces, dissolved into soups, transformed by heat into something invisible. The onion is the most important ingredient that nobody ever thinks to thank. The pyramids still stand. 3,000 years after, the workers who built them were fed on onions and beer and bread. The pyramids outlasted every empire of their era. And the onion that nourished the hands, that moved those stones, is still growing. In Egyptian fields, today, some things simply endure. The next time you pick up an onion and your eyes start to water, remember, you are sharing that experience with every cook who ever lived, with the workers who built the pyramids, with Roman soldiers on the march, with medieval peasants in winter, with Napoleon's freezing army, with General Grant demanding his onions, with every grandmother, in every kitchen, in every country, in every century. The onion makes us all cry, and that is what makes us all the same. Thank you for watching this story on Storia English. If you enjoyed learning English through this story, please subscribe to Storia English. Every week we bring you a new story from history, told in clear, slow, simple English, so you can improve your listening, vocabulary, and confidence, naturally, without stress. We will see you in the next story.